So a fan came to me for advice on their Mako Ryuko family clothes deck, and I just had so much fun fixing their deck up, I decided to look through and try to make a deck of my own. My build's gonna be a little strange, but the clothes cards can do so much fun stuff, I just had to show it all off. If you've never seen a Kill a Kill build before, then this might open your eyes a little bit. This is Kudou's version of Clothes Family Ryuko Mako with some not Mako. As always, if you're just here to net deck the deck list, then here it is. Please enjoy. All I ask is that you leave me a like on your way out. For the rest of us, there's a few really interesting things going on here, so let's take a deeper look. Kill a Kill has access to some insane level 0 play. It feels like the level 0 in Kill a Kill can do pretty much anything and everything at the same time. In fact, you could switch out almost all of these level 0s with a different level 0 and still have a good level 0 lineup. We're going to look at arguably the most important card in the deck, Senketsu Ryuko's outfit. Now let me make something incredibly clear for you. The Ryuko clothes decks are primarily combo decks, and this is one of the key cards in the combo. So it's a 0 Suicider, already giving us a reason to run it at a 4 of, because it's always going to be relevant at level 0. And if you happen to play it from your hand when you have a character with markers in play, then that character gets plus 1000 power for the turn. Now our whole strategy here is going to be about characters that have markers under them, so this being a decent 2 and 3 level play is actually really important too. Play it, give 1000 power to something, and kill it off. The second warning I want to give you is my version of the deck is very toolboxy. If you wanted to build this deck competitively, then I would highly recommend taking out some of my sort of gimmicky cards and boosting some cards up to 4. And this is one of the cards that should be boosted. Mako Worrying is an excellent card to have in your back row at level 0 and 1. It's a pretty basic back row that gives all of your family and clothes characters plus 500 power, but because it gives it to your entire front row, it's actually pretty relevant. It also has a second ability that makes it so that your front row center slot can't be the target of abilities, but since that doesn't get rid of Suiciders, it's not actually as relevant as you would think. It's only really relevant against control heavy level 1 lineups. Ryuko first encounter with Senketsu. Guys, this card, man. This card by itself is enough to make somebody want to play Kill a Kill. If you want to shake up your local shop with a deck that's just going to come in and surprise everybody, then by all means pick up Kill a Kill and just run some of these. So it's a changer, and when it's reversed, it changes into this giant behemoth of a level 1 with 7500 power. Ideally, if we were building this deck without all the toolbox stuff, we would actually bump this up to 4 and run a full 4/4 line of this and the card it changes into. Because at level 0, 7500 is just going to wipe the floor. You're going to win. Okay, you're going to win in level 0 if you had this effect out. Maybe not the whole game, but level 0 is going to be yours. 7500 is too much for a deck to deal with normally, and it's a level 1, so it can't be suicided. But that's nothing. If you pull off this change, then you send this to memory. Not only does it take it out of your deck, so you're playing on less cards when you deck refresh, but as long as it's in the memory, if either player tries to heal from their clock, then they either have to clock a new card of damage from the top of their deck or pay 2 stock. What a way to completely screw people who rely on level 3s that heal. But wait, that's not the best part, that's not the best part. So, if you manage to get more than one of these removed from the game, then each of them proc every time your opponent tries to heal. Hypothetically, if you manage to get 4 of these removed from the game, then every single time your opponent tried to heal with a level 3 effect, they would either have to take 4 new damage or pay 8 stock or do some kind of combination thereof. Anti-heal at its absolute finest. Since we're not running any level 3s that heal, this is just an opponent effect, and it's a good one to have. Kill a Kill's got some pretty nasty level 0s in blue and green, but we're mainly going to focus on the blue ones for this deck because we're looking for clothes characters. Satsuki's pretty neat. When she's put into the waiting room from the stage, then you can pay 1 and discard a card from your hand to search your deck for a clothes character and put it in your hand. The really nice thing about this is it doesn't have a level requirement, so you can honestly look for anything you wanted to. And you're not technically losing anything from your hand because you're paying one card from your hand to get this effect. So if you attack with this and swing into something bigger than you, let it get reversed, then you discard this, you discard one card from your hand and the stock you gained from attacking with this, and you get to search your deck for a closed character, put it in your hand. If it's level 2, you get a neat level 2. If it's level 1, you get a neat level 1. Because this is a combo-heavy deck, these effects are crucial. The last level 0 we're going to look at is Gamagori. A lot of people don't really like the Accelerate ability, but the thing is, I actually really like Accelerate in some cases, and a kill deck is one of the reasons that I really like Accelerate. So as amazing as our level 0 is, you don't really want to stay behind your opponent too often. Like, if your opponent gets pushed to level 1, then they've got access to level 1 and level 0 cards, so they're actually going to have an advantage when it comes to choosing attackers. This is actually one of the rare decks that I would say it's better to run something with Accelerate at level 0 and level 1 so that you have the option of going into the higher level if you really need to. That's not really the right way to say it. What I more mean is that it's good to have decks where it doesn't matter if you and your opponent are on the same level, or if you don't necessarily gain as much from being a level behind your opponent, so you can afford to use other effects. Gamagori's first effect is if you have 3 or more cards in your clock, it gets a natural plus 1000, so it goes up to 3000, which is okay, it's pretty decent. And it has an Accelerate ability where you can put the top card of your deck into your clock, and you can get plus 2,500 power, making this a 5,500 if you have 3 or more cards in your clock. The cool thing is, if you've only got 2 cards in your clock and you use this effect and it puts you up to 3 cards in your clock, then your other ability procs too, so you go up to the 5,500. Since this is a closed character, it's going to get Mako Worrying's effect, so at best, if you have 2 Mako Worrying in the back, you can use this Accelerate effect to go up to 6,500, which for a level 0 is pretty effing good. In today's metagame, people are running less powerful level 1s because they're trying to run stock-free level 1s where they don't have to pay any stock at level 1 and they can just go off on level 2. So 6,500 is actually going to be a very relevant number right now in the metagame, and having a level 0 that can produce that number for you is just phenomenal. Level 1 is sort of a slingshot level into our level 2 play. Like, we have very powerful level 0 setup, and then we last through level 1, and then on level 2 we just unload everything. That doesn't mean our level 1 is any slouch though. Berserk Ryuko is the next piece of our puzzle, and it's pretty nice. It's a level 1 that is at 7,500 naturally. It also can't be reversed by your opponent's auto effects, but it's just not that relevant. You're going to hit the odd deck that actually does matter against once in a while, but for the most part, it's just a really beefy 7,500. But that power has to come at a cost somewhere, and nuts. If this gets reversed and sent to the waiting room, then you have to clock the top card of your deck. This effect would be fine if Berserk Ryuko then came back into play like it was an encore effect, but it's not an encore effect. You lose the card and you take 1 damage. Another thing is we really want Berserk Ryuko to stay in play at level 2 because it's part of our main combo, but you know, overall, a 7,500 with 2 Makos in the back, it's going to make it an 8,500. It's going to be pretty effing tough to kill because your opponent can't just kill it with auto effects. So overall, it does have some downsides, but it can come out at level 0, and overall, it's a pretty good card. This also, for the record, is one of the cards that should be boosted to 4 if you're turning this into a competitive deck. Senketsu Talking Sailor Uniform. This card single-handedly gives us an option for the deck that we just changes the complete dynamic of the deck. This is one of the best toolbox cards that I've seen in Weiss Schwarz. This is second only maybe to some of the cards in Sword Art Online, like the level 0 Kirito that searches for Asuna. But anyways, this isn't about Sao, this is about Kill a Kill, okay? So when you play it, you can discard a card from your hand and pay a stock, and search your deck for a close or a family character and put it in your hands. Now, some of my more savvy viewers are going to notice that this effect is very similar to some of the level 0s, mainly the Satsuki that we're running, and might wonder why we are running 3 of this and 3 of that instead of 2 of this and 4 of that, because that effect is slightly better at level 0. Well, the fact that you can get the card before the battle phase is very important, because you can grab a card to immediately play right after you use this effect. And again, you're not necessarily losing much hand advantage, because you're trading the card in your hand for a card that you actually need. You can use this to put your level 0 Senketsus into the discard pile and then set up for your main level 2 combo, and the more prepared you are at level 2, the faster you'll go off when level 2 actually hits. This one card is the reason we can run a deck with so many 1-ofs and 2-ofs, because we can just toolbox into whatever card we need to fit the situation. Power with Senketsu is going to be a very controversial choice, and yes, you could easily take this out and replace it with something else. Here's the thing though. Part of this decision is the metagame. The metagame right now is to play cards that don't cost anything at level 1, and because we already have stuff that does cost at level 1, we want to be running some beaters that don't cost anything. So either run this or run the level 1 Mako that also has 5,000 power and doesn't cost anything. The reason I'm running this over the Mako Sightseeing is because, one, it hits a higher power at a potential 8,500 that isn't conditional. The Mako Sightseeing absolutely needs you to have a full row to be at full power, but this one, even if it's the only card you have, it can hit its 8,500 max power. And 2, again, I really like Accelerate and the way it works with this deck. Because level 2 is our absolute just pop off and make everything happen level, things that allow us to get to level 2 if we choose to are very powerful. Accelerate into an 8,500 for free and beat something down and cost your opponent some resources, and then go into level 2 as quickly as possible and go off. I'm not saying use this and kill yourself, but I am saying that it does give you a very nice option. The last card we're going to look at in our level 1 lineup is a very underrated card, a card that I don't see a lot of people play, and I think is absolutely necessary right now in the metagame. Or any metagame, really. Like, this is an amazing card. So, when it reverses something, it goes to the stock. And I know a lot of people are going to be against this initially because they're like, oh, well, you don't want to fill up your opponent's stock. Okay, Kudou, like, that's a bad idea. Not only does it not go to the waiting room, so it doesn't become potential damage for later, but you don't want to fill up your opponent's stock. And I get that, but you need something like this to get rid of decks that focus on Encore. It doesn't cost any stock. If you have 2 Makos in the back row, it's a 7,500. Just let it go in, reverse something with Encore, and send it to the stock so that your opponent can't just Encore it to infinity. Very, very useful card, but only use it if your opponent has Encore. If not, just forget this card is even in your deck. Blah, wah, wah. But Kudou, you promised that level 2 was going to be our pop-off level. That at level 2 we were just going to go off and everything was going to get insane. But your level 2 lineup looks thin as paper, Kudou. What's going on? I haven't lost my mind, guys, okay? Level 2 gets really crazy for Kill a Kill, and let's explain why. So, Not So Great Daughter Mako is incredible. It's insane. It is literally the only card that matters at level 2 for this deck. None of the other cards that I put at this level actually mean anything towards the deck. Wow, Kudou, you sure are talking this card up a lot. I sure hope you can back up that statement, mister. Okay, let's talk, guys. Let's talk man to man here. First of all, it's a back row card. So you pay 1 stock and you put it in the back row and it gives bi-level assist. Wait, not done. So its climax combo is when you play its climax, you can trade one of your Berserk Ryokos in play for a level anything from your hands, as long as it's closed or family and you discard a card from your hands. Spoiler alert, people. Your entire setup is to fill your hand with level 3s so that when this effect goes off, you can pop your level 3s. It doesn't matter what level 3s you have, as long as they're closed or family, this effect goes off and it's always amazing. We have a very aggressive combo damage dealing level 3 lineup, and we can do all of our level 3 shenanigans on level 2 because of this card. But wait, there's more! Because this is bi-level assist, when we play our level 3s onto the field, they're going to get an extra 1,500 power. If you have 2 of these in the back, then both of them pop off of your one climax, so you trade off 2 of your Berserk Ryukos, get 2 level 3s, and the one in the middle is going to get plus 3,000 power, the other one's going to get plus 1,500 power. Oh, I can't look at it. I can't look at it. It's too beautiful. Now, a lot of people are going to point out that this is a very what-if scenario, but the entire point of the deck is to pull off this what-if scenario. You have every tool available to you, every searcher, every stock saver you need to pull off this combo and explode as soon as your very first turn at level 2 hits. Every single first turn you get at level 2 should look like this. You play 2 Mako not-so-great daughters in the back row. You use a climax to put 2 of your Berserk Ryukos, which should be in play, into the discard pile. You discard 2 cards from your hand, you play 2 level 3s, and you go off. The only hard part about this play should be having the 2 Berserk Ryukos already in play because of how big a target they're going to be for your opponent. But because of the way the deck is situated, you can play the 2 Berserk Ryukos from your hand if you're nervous about having them in play already. But Kudou, that sure is a lot of stock. No, it is not a lot of stock. This effect does not cost any stock. You hear me? No stock needed for this effect. So giving up 2 stock to play 2 Ryuko Berserks is nothing. You give up that 2 stock, then you use this effect to pop off, and you get 2 level 0s that would normally cost you 4 stock, 1 level lower, and because they're played from your hands, their from-hand effects go off, and they get power boosts because this is a per-level assist. Every once in a while, we won't have the tools we need to pull this off, so we do have a few other level 2s that we can search for to sort of switch up strategies if we really need to. First off, Fight Club Ryuko is really good against change decks because most level 2 changers are a little lower than most other level 2s. If you have a full field, then this is a 9,500, and every time it reverses a level 2 or higher character, you actually gain 1 stock, and the 1 stock is very useful for this deck because we need stock to use a lot of our abilities. So as soon as you see your opponent play a pretty weak level 2 that you know you can take out, then get this on the field and get that free stock. This card is arguably the best of the level 2 lineup, so I have it at 2 copies when I have the other ones at 1 copy. It's one of the cards that combos with our Senketsu Ryuko's outfit. So when you play this card, you can take a Ryuko's outfit Senketsu and put it from your discard pile under this as a marker. As long as you have that marker, during your opponent's turn, whenever your opponent has to switch one of their standing characters to rest, this gets plus 2,000 power for the turn. A lot of decks nowadays are finding ways to use their back row more, so you'll find effects that are like rest 2 characters and give a character such and such power, or brainstormers that need to rest to use their effects, and this punishes players for that. So if your opponent does something, anything that rests both of their back row characters, these stand at 12,000. Your opponent's gonna have to rest to attack you, so it's gonna be 14,000 when your opponent delivers their attack. And if this card's battle isn't the very first battle to go off, then it just racks up every single time. So if this is like the last card your opponent attacks, they're attacking into an 18,000. In most cases, it's going to be too big to move, and it's a really great way to punish your opponent for abusing Brainstorm or back row effects. The problem here, and the reason it's a toolbox card and not something you can build an actual deck around, is as soon as it goes to the waiting room, even if you encore it back, it's going to have its marker lost. So there's really no saving it, and it's one of the reasons that I put it at 2 copies, so if that does happen to one, you have a chance of playing another one. Last up, we have Same Feelings Mako. It turns out Mako can put Senketsu on too for some reason. If you have a marker under this, it's a 9,000, which 1 stock for a 9,000 isn't necessarily bad, and there are going to be some very rare instances where saving that 1 stock is going to be us getting our key playoff, and we're going to be wanting to save as much stock as possible. So this is for the very rare instances where you need to save that 1 stock. And it does it, I guess. If I were going to start cutting cards from the deck, I'd probably cut this but I really wanted to make use of that whole level 0 Suicider that can go under other cards thing. And just a big old cheap 9,000 attacker is pretty decent, I guess. Here's our technically quote-unquote level 3 lineup, though we're going to be running it as our level 2 lineup, but we'll follow the rules. We'll call them level 3s. First, let's take a look at Can't Be Stopped Mako, and while I do think both of these are absolutely phenomenal level 3s, I do think Can't Be Stopped Mako is more powerful. Firstly, because it has a lot less requirements, and secondly, because its effect pretty much guarantees damage the first time it attacks. So when it comes into play, it gets plus 500 power for each of your other characters. All of them are going to be closer family, so it doesn't even matter. If you have a full field, then this is going to come into play at a 12,000 and just gets more obnoxious if you use the combo to put it into play. And the very first time it's played and attacks, if its damage is cancelled, then you get to do a follow-up sort of damage step where you get to reveal the top card of your deck, deal damage equal to its level +1, and then discard it, and it's pretty much guaranteed damage, and guaranteed damage is pretty good. If your opponent does happen to cancel both attacks, then it's getting rid of 2 climaxes, which is still pretty decent. It's like getting 2 attacks off at once. Decided to finish the fight Ryuko is technically more powerful. It's technically a more powerful card, but I don't consider it as good because it's a lot more complicated, and complicated can equal clunky. So when it's played onto the field, you can take 1 Junketsu from your discard pile and remove it from the game, and then take 1 Senketsu and put it under this as a marker. Even for a combo deck that's already really situational, and that's why we're only running this at 2, because if we can at least get 1 of these into play, I think it's going to be fine. Like, if we have 1 of these and then 2 Mako Can't Stops, I think our field is pretty good. Its second effect is actually a really decent encore effect. So if this becomes reversed in battle, then you can reveal a closed character from your hands, put it face down under this as a marker, and pay 1 stock to just have it be rested. And you can actually do this to collect markers, which is actually pretty important. First of all, it's a way to get markers without having to use its really ridiculously situational in-play effect, and it's also a pretty nice way to stack up for its final effect. So at the beginning of the encore step, you can pay 2 stock to have this deal X damage to your opponent, where X is the number of markers under this. So it's the number of times that you've saved it, and that's pretty darn awesome. Because every time you run this into something stronger than it, you're just making this card more powerful and making this effect even more potent. And if you're attacking with a full field of 3 every turn, you're going to get this effect off at least once a turn. It's not like a level 3 you care about stock all that much anyway, you just want to win the game. And the more chances that you deal damage, the more chances you're going to have to win. So ideally, if you can get both of these in play and have this effect go off one after another every encore step, you're going to be getting off so many chances to deal damage, and it's going to increase your chances to win. Honestly, your level 1 lineup should be cheap enough that pulling off this effect multiple times a game shouldn't be that difficult. And this is one of the reasons that I'd love to run this card at 3 or 4, but unfortunately, even if we had a full field of these, I don't think it'd be that potent. I think 1 or 2 on the field is enough. We're actually running some pretty decent events too. Junketsu is one of our combo pieces, so let's look at it first. It's a level 1 counter that adds 3,500 power. That is a lot of effing power at level 1. This card's main use is going to be keeping Berserk Ryukos alive, because 1, we don't want to have to take the 1 damage when they go to the discard pile, and 2, because we need Berserk Ryukos to be alive when we hit level 2 to pull off the combo. Ideally, we'd love to have more of these, but, you know, we just don't have the space for it, and it is kind of gimmicky anyway. I think 3 is the most I would ever play of this card. In fact, if we're being technical, the Senketsu backup at level 1 is actually better than this card, primarily because we can actually search the Senketsu by using searching abilities. We can't search this card out, we just have to get lucky and draw it. Last up is Classic Trap. Classic Trap is not necessary at all. It can be easily cut, but I love it and I want to play it. So it's a backup at level 2 that doesn't cost anything that returns one of your characters to your hand. Here's what's so cool about this. First of all, if your opponent attacks you and you use a backup card, your opponent's already declared the attack, so they don't get the +1 for attacking an open space or anything. You can just use this scoop up a character, and let it be saved. This is especially neato because if your opponent's attacking into your Berserk Ryukos, then what you can do is if you hit level 2 while your opponent's attacking, you can use this backup, but not necessarily save one of your the character that's being attacked. You can actually use this card to save your Berserk Ryukos so that you don't take the 1 damage for them going to the discard pile at the beginning of the Encore step. The other thing that makes it really cool is you can take a character with a good on-play effect from your field and put it back in your hand. This is really great with Mako Can't Stops. If your opponent attacks into Mako Can't Stop, then what you do is you play this, you put it back in your hands, and then you play it again during your next turn if you're at level 3 to get its on-play effect again and get the double damage thing, and it's really awesome. These are the 2 climaxes we're using. We're using them solely for the climax combos, but as luck would have it, these are my favorite 2 triggers in the game. Gate triggers, obviously best triggers, and bounce triggers, which I've always really liked. It is a little unfortunate that they're both the all your characters get plus 1,000 power, plus 1 soul. Like, that is a really good effect, but I wish one of these had been a plus 2 soul climax. That would have been a little overpowered, I guess, but they would have made me really happy. So when you're redrawing your hand, you can get rid of all of your level 2s except for, obviously, Maki Not So Great Daughter. Go ahead and get rid of your level 3s like normal. For level 1s, always save your Berserk Ryukos. Some people are going to think that they're being super awesome and edgy by getting rid of the Berserk Ryukos and then having them in the discard pile so they can pull off the first encounter with Senketsu effect. But because first encounter with Senketsu requires you to discard a card, it's actually better to discard the Berserk Ryukos and then play them from the effect because, you know, then you get to discard before you actually pull off the effect, and you're guaranteed the effect no matter what. I'd actually say don't really get rid of any of the level 1s in your hand unless you don't have 2 level 0s in your hand. If you have any less than 2 level 0s in your hand, then get rid of your level 1s, get rid of your climaxes, get rid of everything because you want a strong level 0 game. Level 0 is mainly for setting up, but you should be controlling level 0. There's no reason for you to be losing level 0 with this deck. Your main focus here should be on your combo, so you want to be getting rid of your level 0 Suicide or Senketsus. Go ahead and just use those like crazy because you want them in your discard pile. And you also want to be pulling off your first encounter with Senketsus at least once. If you can do it multiple times, it'll be great because the more Berserk Ryukos you can get out there, the better. We mainly want to be saving our hand. So if you have Berserk Ryukos out there, that's attackers that you have that you don't have to play cards from your hands to continue with. If by some miracle you can pull off getting 3 Berserk Ryukos in play, then every turn you can just keep clocking cards and keep a very, very strong, consistent field that can attack every turn while also gaining you as much hand advantage as possible for all the hand discards we need. Everything else is secondary. Focus on pulling off those 2 cards, and everything else is just about helping you succeed along those lines. Now, at level 1, you mainly want to be using Senketsu Talking Sailor Uniform to set up. So here are the pieces you're looking for. You need some Mako Not So Great Daughters, you need some level 3s, and you need some Berserk Ryukos. If you've already got the Berserk Ryukos in play, then start looking for those Mako Not So Great Daughters. You want 2 of them, so try to get 2 of them if you can. And you want at least 2 level 2s so that, level 3s. You want at least 2 level 3s so you can pull off that combo when you hit level 2. Try to use a healthy combination of your Berserk Ryukos and your Ryuko with Accelerate, because if your opponent gets a level 2 before you and they just insta-gib your Berserk Ryukos, it's going to kill your flow. So try to use some of the Accelerate Ryukos to try and make sure that you and your opponent hit level 2 at roughly the same time. In fact, if you could hit level 2 before your opponent hits level 2, then that's absolutely no problem for you. It might even be a little bit better. And if your opponent is just sitting and stalling on some invincible encoring bullcrap, then don't forget to search out your Ryuko of 2As and kick him out of the way, okay? Kick it back, we're not going to play with it. Going into level 2, you should have a very healthy hand and your combo set up. There should have been enough time from the beginning of the game to now to have every piece that you need. Here are the pieces to your puzzle. You should have 2 Mako not-so-great daughters. You should have 2 decent level 3s. You should have 2 Berserk Ryukos either in play or in your hand ready. You should have the Climax for the Climax combo. And you should have 1 card in your hand that you can clock for 2 random cards that don't matter. At the beginning of your turn, you're going to clock your random card that doesn't matter to draw 2 cards. You're going to play 2 of your Mako not-so-great daughters. You're going to have your 2 Berserk Ryukos in play, or you're going to play them now. You're going to play your Climax, you're going to turn them into your level 3s, and you're going to proceed to go off and stomp some face. If this isn't what your level 2 looks like, then first of all, reevaluate some stuff, figure out a different play style so that you can make that happen more often in the future. And secondly, if you just absolutely cannot pull this off, if some freak accident happened, you don't have much stock, you don't have that many cards in your hand, then just use searchers to get a decent level 2 wall up and play very traditionally until you can pull your combo off. I'll be honest, if you can't pull this effect off within the first 2 turns of you being level 2, it just might not be worth doing it at all. You might just want to keep it traditional. Fight Club Ryuko is your technically best card if you and your opponent are both level 2, because it should be strong enough to take care of any of your opponent's level 2s. If you still have a Junketsu in your hand, then it can be a really neat surprise if your opponent attacks into a Ryuko Fight Club and ends up hitting a Junketsu and having their character reversed and you getting the stock off of that. Other than that, play your Satsuki, and if you are just running super low on stock, maybe have 2 or less, then start focusing on maybe, I don't know, your Mako same feelings. Level 3 is kind of your makeup level. If you weren't able to pull off your not-so-great daughter effect, then just play level 3 out like normal. Use your searchers to get a decent level 3 lineup, and just play and win. If you were able to get your combo off, first off, good job. Second off, you should be far enough ahead now that it's just a little bit extra damage you need to deal. You had to get rid of so many resources to pull the combo off. You should have pretty much an empty hand. Just continue attacking. Your Ryukos are more powerful at level 3 than your Mako Can't Stops. Your Mako Can't Stops are better at level 2. At this level, you want to be keeping your Ryukos as healthy as possible, so just keep enough cards in your hand that you can keep them healthy and keep attacking. Remember, paying 1 card from your hand to keep your Ryuko alive is just as good as having to let it die and playing a new card from your hand to take its place. I really don't recommend trying to pull off any of your searches at this level. Don't try to use any more of your Senketsu talking sailor uniforms or anything. You want to be keeping cards in your hand specifically for Ryuko's effect, and you also want to keep a healthy mix of attackers because your hand is already so low from pulling off the combo that you don't really want to give up too many other resources that could potentially be dealing damage to your opponent instead of searching for cards. Let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. This deck really shocked me. I'm really glad my fan brought it up. Thank you so much. I'd never really looked that far into the Kill la Kill set because I wasn't a huge fan of the anime, but honestly, as far as combo decks go, especially combo decks in the English metagame, this is definitely one of my favorites. Anti-heal, level 3s on level 2, and so much damage for your opponent to have to deal with. This deck is a lot of fun. That being said, super specific combo decks like this are going to turn a lot of people off, and I definitely understand that. I think if you wanted to take the combo aspect out of it, this would still be a very decent beatdown deck with some anti-heal, but at the same time, I feel like if you're not taking advantage of the full combo potential of the deck, it's not going to be quite as rewarding. But hey, that's only one side of Kill la Kill. Maybe there's a whole lot of other neat deck archetypes out there that I haven't experimented with yet. Like I was stating before, this is sort of a gimmicky build of the deck. If you want a slightly more focused, consistent version of the deck with less gimmicks, then let me teach you how to do it. Start by taking out both of the Gamagoris, 1 Satsuki wearing Senketsu, 1 Mako same feelings, and both of the classic traps. Use that space for 1 more Junketsu, 1 more level 3 Ryoko, 1 more Mako not so great daughter, 1 more Berserk Ryuko, 1 more Satsuki first step to the goal, and 1 more Ryuko first encounter with Yeah, with Senketsu. I'm not redoing that. Do this and the combo will be a lot more consistent, but it'll also be a little more reliant on it, so get good at pulling it off. If you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. Those things really do help us out. If you have any thoughts on the deck or any suggestions, leave them in the comments section below, along with any other suggestions on videos you'd like to see me do. And finally, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Kudou news. Thanks for watching, Weiss fans. I'll see you next time.